Hey there, I'm Nathan Schock, and I am a results leader.
You're listening to ResultsLeader.fm. Being a thought leader is easy. Getting results is hard. This show is for the results leader who lives and dies by their results. Here is your host and Chief Results Leader, Jonathan Rivera.
Yes, y'all. It is time once again for another ResultsLeader.fm. Welcome back if you've been here before. If you're brand new, hey, nice to have you. This is the only show on the internet dedicated to the men and women who are getting results for their clients. We are all about the results. And today's guest is going to blow you away with his thinking about how to get better results by providing better experiences. Today, Mr. Nathan Schock joins us. Let's jump in. Nathan, welcome to the show. Are you ready to rock this thing?
Ready or not, here we go.
Well, you better be ready because I got a whole bunch of questions for you. And the first one is, what book have you given most as a gift?
Oh man, there are so many, but there is a clear favorite. And that's The Experience Economy by Joe Pine and Jim Gilmore. These are the two that first discovered that the companies that give a better experience make more money than those that simply provide a good or a service. Before them, we were in the service economy. Now we're in the experience economy.
I'm going to have to pick that one up. That's the first time I hear about that. Thank you.
You bet. You know, when you think about that change that they noted, they came up with a theory called the progression of economic value, that services are worth more than goods, experiences more than services. Take the coffee bean for an example. So the coffee bean, the raw commodity, there's a couple of cents of that in a cup of coffee. When you talk about the product, now Maxwell House, Folgers, they package that thing up, sell it in the store. Now you got 20 to 25 cents of coffee in a cup. Maybe instead you go to Denny's and you get a service of a bottomless cup of coffee for $1.50, $1.99. And can you guess what the experience is, the coffee experience?
At Denny's?
So the coffee, now we go from service to experience, and that experience is Starbucks, or as my grandpa called it, $4.
$4.
Because he couldn't imagine anyone paying $4 for a cup of coffee. But that's the difference from commodity to good to service to experience. A couple of pennies versus $4, $5, or if I take my daughters to Starbucks, $7 for a cup of coffee. That's the difference between a good and an experience.
I dig it, man. Tell us a story of how an apparent failure set you up for later success.
Yeah, there's lots I could dig into, but there's one that really was the founding of this business that I currently run. You see, when I left the corporate world 10 years ago, I joined a startup and it didn't go well, to put it mildly. You see, I was hired as the chief marketing officer. This company had been really successful locally and they secured some private equity to expand across the nation. But all that money made them forget what had made them successful in the first place. They thought it was going to shortcut us to a faster growth. And all it did was blow through the cash. So not even a year and a half into it, I found the rest of the leadership out of the company. And my job now was CEO to try to kind of bring this thing back. And I made plenty of mistakes. But the biggest one that I didn't make was going back to what had made them successful in the first place. And so that's been my mission at this business ever since, is to discover what it is that makes companies successful and help them replicate that. Because that's what really fills me up, is learning from that past experience so that I can help other business leaders avoid it.
How do you find what made a company successful? I mean, are there clues? Is there a roadmap? Because obviously, if you're in there, maybe they've forgotten what made them successful and you have to help bring them back to that. So how does that work?
Well, it's kind of all of the above. And I am a firm believer that success leaves clues. But if you look at a business, it's almost always founded for a particular reason, right? They're providing something to a customer that they couldn't ever get before, or in a way that they couldn't before. And as they have success doing that, the company grows. But what happens is a lot of times they outgrow the thing that made them successful in the first place. Now you have, instead of that founder closely around all of the people in the company, there might be multiple levels of reporting. There might be multiple locations, geographic distance, all these things that make it harder to replicate what made that business successful in the first place. So it's really going back to that origin in a lot of cases. But there's also always some bright lights, right? There's someone in the company that's continuing to do things the way we used to. And we find that and connect it back to what we do today and do every day. But there's always something there. There's something to find that they've gotten away from as they've grown through their successful times.
So, I mean, I hear you talking about the business growing, the owner being separated from the day-to-day operations and maybe losing touch with what's going on. But what about the innovation part? Because what got you here won't get you there, right? So, yeah, you started out with this awesome idea and this awesome product or service. But as the years go by, that changes. So how do you bring those two pieces together?
Well, you're exactly right, because you can't just continue to do things the way that you did. And it's always a marrying of those two, right? Like as you go through those business plateaus, that's where you can lean back on the experience of others and say, how have we made the lift from here to here and from here to here? Because there's a lot of commonalities. Right? There's not a whole lot of difference in what one business does from the next. But it's marrying those two that's so important. Otherwise, you lose what makes the company distinctive. And then you're just like anyone else.
Got it, man. What would you say is the most worthwhile investment that you have ever made?
Well, for me, the most valuable thing I have is my time. Right? There's nothing more invaluable than that. I can multiply money. I can't multiply time. So when I think of investment, I think of where I invested my time. And I want to take you back to when I became CEO of that company. I had to change. So as a chief marketing officer, I had gotten a little comfortable. And I told myself that I needed to stay on top of all these trends. And what I had really done was carve out a junk food information diet for myself, where I was reading nothing but blog posts and tweets and Facebook posts and, all that kind of stuff that just leaves you feeling empty. And so back in 2013, I committed myself to reading at least one book a week. And I have not missed that ever since. So it was that decision, that commitment to invest my time into reading a book, not because books are magical, but there's at least a thought out, hypothesis that they're taking you through. They've given it more thought than someone who just dashed off a blog post yesterday, right? So it was that commitment, that investment of my time that really changed me in a massive way.
What would you say is let's do this. In the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life?
Well, for that, I would have to say what I did for my health. So if I take you back to November of last year, I went to my doctor and I got 2 diagnoses that weren't good. One was high cholesterol, which is pretty much your average, right? Who doesn't struggle with that? The second one, though, was a little more serious. It was cancer on my tongue. And originally, when they saw the high cholesterol, they wanted to put me on a statin. But all of that got shoved to the side when we said, okay, we better deal with the cancer first. And so I had that surgery, had it removed, cancer-free. So, amen, praise God for that. But I decided that I needed to change some things. It's kind of the typical story, college athlete, high metabolism, can eat whatever you want. And then, I was okay. I was reasonably healthy, but not good enough. And so I set out on a path last November to learn everything I could about health. And I changed a ton about what I eat and when I eat and how much I eat and when I exercise. And it has put me in a much, much healthier state today than I was then. And that ripples over into every area of my life. I get better sleep. I have more energy. I show up better for my clients. I show up better for my employees. But it all goes back to that decision, that kind of linchpin habit of deciding to pay attention to my health.
What are some bad recommendations you hear in your area of expertise?
The biggest is so many of the companies that we work with have been told that they can make giant leaps forward by making what we would call service improvements. So if I take you back to that service versus experience, a lot of times when we start working with a company, they say, oh yeah, we can make the experience of working with us better. But what they talk about is making it nice and easy and convenient to do business with them. They're service improvements. And those are good. But what they actually do is make you forgettable. By making it easier to do business with you, you're commoditizing yourself. If that's all you focus on, is shortening the amount of time, making it easier to get the result, counterintuitively, it makes you forgettable. And it makes you like everyone else. And unfortunately, there's always someone out there that can do it just a little bit faster, or just a little bit cheaper, or heaven forbid, maybe even a little bit better. And so if all you do is focus on making your process more efficient, you're commoditizing yourself and sealing your fate.
So is that why you talk about the experience? Because it's so interesting to hear. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that. Oh, make it easier to work with me. And I've had that advice given to me a million times. Make it easier. And sometimes I like people to jump through hoops. I want them to do an application. I want them to do homework. I want them to get prepared. And so what do you say to those people that say make it easier? Is there something better that they need to be doing or something different?
Well, the thing is it treats everyone sort of like an automaton, right? That all we want is ease and convenience. And to a certain extent, they're right. We want our services delivered two ways, fast and cheap. But that's so that we can spend our time and money on experiences that we value more highly. And whereas services happen in the real world, experiences are inside of us. So if I decide with my clients that I want to not just be responsible for their service, but for the experience, then I'm taking responsibility for their feelings and emotions and what happens inside of them. And when you can connect to that and wrap that experience around your service, that's when you create loyal customers, lifelong customers who can't wait to tell everyone else about you.
We interrupt your regularly scheduled program for a public service announcement. We're going to get right back into this show, but I wanted to ask you a question. If you have been listening to the show for any amount of time and you've picked up even one single tip, then I need your help. Get the word out. Tell people about resultsleader.fm. Share it on social media, share it on your email, share it anywhere. #ResultsLeaderFM. Now let's jump back into the interview. Nathan, why do results matter?
Oh man, for lots of reasons. And I'm sure you've probably heard them all, but there's another really, really important one. If results matter, then what matters for our clients is not our process. It's not us. It's their transformation. So by saying that results matter, it forces me to focus on my clients and not me. Because if it was just about the process, then results don't matter. All I do is follow the process. But if results matter, then that's more important than my process and means I have to go outside of it sometimes to get the result that I want. Because ultimately, it's about the transformation of the client. It's either them or their business or both. And by focusing on results, I'm committing myself to that transformation.
That's powerful, man. Let's talk about your business a little bit. What area of your business would you like to see better results?
Well, you know the saying about the cobbler's kids that they have no shoes. So what do I want? I always want a better experience for my clients. I acknowledge all the time that it could be better and that, we're constantly improving the service, but the experience is so easy to forget. It's so easy to lose sight of because I've got this checklist and I've got this process and I've got these things that I've got to do in order to get them from here to there. But if I'm not paying attention to them as a person, then it's so easy to lose sight of the experience. Because when we talk about experiences, what we're talking about really is a mindset of committing yourself to the client experience. And mindsets, as you know, it's not something you set one morning and now you're good for life. That's an everyday, all the time kind of thing. So what I want for my business is to be as good at the experience for my clients as some of them are for their clients.
Give us some examples of what it means to provide a better experience for your clients.
So experiences, again, as I said, are internal. So when I come to any engagement with my client, it's not just about getting a checklist of things done. It's about getting to the end of that meeting and making them want to sit back and say, that was a good investment of my time. That time with Nathan was a good use of my time. And I do that really in customization. So if you go back to that progression of economic value, anytime you're commoditized, you move down to a lower level of economic offering. Anytime you customize, you move up. So if you customize a service, you make it into an experience. So as I walk through my process, I have to constantly be in tune to the business that's in front of me, the person that is in front of me, and who they are. And then finally, this one is super important. There has to be something that is outside of their expectation. I'm not talking about exceeding expectation. I'm talking about surprising them entirely so that they come out of every interaction with some kind of a wow, some kind of a surprise, some new insight, something they learned about themselves or their business. Again, that goes back to making them think that was time well spent. And that really is the difference. In services, we're talking about time well saved, right? I took my car and got it serviced. They changed the oil, and that I probably could have done that, but it might have taken me 3 hours and I would have ruined some clothes, right? So it takes them 15 minutes and I pay them $60 and I'm out the door and I'm fine. But with experiences, it's about time well invested. It's that I look at that time as valuable. So if you go back to that car, the auto dealer, that's why they've invested in nice seating and Wi-Fi and a Starbucks coffee machine and cookies and all those things that surround the service and make it more experiential. So that's the difference between service and experience. Service saves you time. Experience makes it a valuable time.
The coffee machine, I think, is called a $4 machine.
You got it.
What results are you most proud of?
Every time we make an impact in a client's life, it's gratifying. But there's one that really stands out over the last couple of years. I was working with a husband and wife founder. They had their own consulting business and they were looking to get out, but they had built an amazing business. And as we walked through our process with them, we identified some pretty significant changes, adding a new position within the company that was just dedicated to customer success, making some process tweaks and a few other things. And there were some other factors involved, of course, but their revenue doubled. And the amount of time they were having to spend on their business decreased. So revenue went up, time invested went down, and suddenly they don't want to sell anymore because they're having fun. They're back to the original feeling that they had when they started this company. So again, I love every transformation that we take a company through, but that's the one really that stands out the most in the last few years.
Any parting thoughts you want to share with the results leaders who are listening to us right now?
As I think about experiences and how the next level up from experiences are transformations. Because ultimately what we're doing is trying to guide our clients through a series of experiences that transforms their business. And transformations is just another word for results, right? You generate results. And by generating results, that's a transformation. You're changing the business. That's what people are paying you for, is to make something different, make something in their business change versus what it is today. So I think that eventually every business that's in client service will become an experience business. And that every business will eventually be paid on their ability to demonstrate transformations, or in another word, results. So if we're not there today in your industry, trust me, at some point we will be. If you're not able to deliver results, you won't have a business.
Ain't that the truth? Amen, brother. So I know our listeners are going to want more from you. Where can they get it?
The best place to find me is two areas. One is just nathanschock.com, and that'll link out to all my businesses, to my social platforms. But the one I'm most active on is LinkedIn. So if you just go to LinkedIn and search for Nathan Schock with 2 C's, Schock, you'll find me.
We will have links in the show notes. We've been hanging out with Mr. Nathan Schock. Thank you for spending some time with us, and thank you, results leaders, for tuning in. Another episode is in the can. That is a wrap for another edition of resultsleader.fm. If you are out there getting results for your clients and you want to be featured on the show, go to resultsleader.fm now and apply to be on the show. And if you love what you're hearing, share the show, give us a rating and review, do anything to help us get the message out there. Thought leadership is easy, but results leadership is hard. We'll catch you on the next one.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.